Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're uncorking the secrets behind some of the most expensive objects on Earth. We're talking about things that start out as, simple books or bottles of wine, and somehow transform into multi-million-dollar treasures.
So let's just start with a number to give you a sense of what we're dealing with. $38.1 million. And no, that's not for a mansion or a private jet. In 2023, that was the price someone paid for a single book.
And this wasn't just any book. This is the Codex Sassoon, a nearly complete Hebrew Bible from all the way back in the 9th century. I mean, it's way more than a book. It's a foundational piece of human history. And, well, it has a price tag to match.
Okay, now let's hop from the library over to the wine cellar. A few years back, a single bottle of wine sold for this much. $558,000. Think about that. Over $500,000 for one bottle.
This bottle is pretty much the holy grail for wine collectors. It's a 1945 Romane Conti. It's from a super rare vintage made by the legendary Domaine de la Romane Conti in Burgundy. For people in the know, this isn't really a beverage anymore. It's basically a myth in a bottle.
So this gets us to the big question, right? A book, a bottle of wine. How on earth do they go from being simple objects to multi-million-dollar treasures? Well, it turns out there's a kind of formula behind it all, and we're about to break it down.
Whether we're talking about a book or a bottle, what makes it insanely valuable rests on a surprisingly consistent set of principles. You can really think of it as 3 key pillars holding everything up.
So first up, it starts with the creator. We're talking about the reputation of a master like William Shakespeare, or a legendary vineyard like Domaine de la Romane Conti. Then, that quality gets supercharged by scarcity. Was it a limited run? Are there only a handful left in the world? And finally, all of that is cemented by the history, the unique story of that specific object, which collectors call its provenance.
And this idea of provenance is way more important than you might think. It's not just some nice backstory about a famous owner, it's the ironclad documented proof that an item is the real deal. And that proof is absolutely essential, because the world of high-end collectibles has a huge problem with fraud. I mean, get this. In the fine wine world, some people estimate that up to 20%, 1 in 5 of the bottles out there could be fakes. And that is exactly why a verifiable history, that proven provenance, is everything. It's literally the only thing separating a priceless treasure from a worthless fake. Now, when those 3 things, the creator, the scarcity, and the history, all come together, they create something much more powerful than just a collectible. They create a legend. And a lot of the time, that story becomes just as valuable as the object itself.
Just take the legendary bottle of 1787 Chateau Lafite. Its supposed provenance suggested it was owned by none other than Thomas Jefferson. That story alone helped it smash records at auction. But it also kicked off a decades-long, bitter fight over whether it was even real, a story so wild it became the subject of a whole book. Or how about this incredible story? Champagne from 1907 was on its way to Russia when the ship carrying it was sunk by a German U-boat in World War I. 80 years later, divers found it, perfectly preserved at the bottom of the ocean. That amazing survival story, its unique history, tacked on hundreds of thousands of dollars to its value. And in the world of rare books, what's better provenance than owning the original handwritten thoughts of a genius? That's exactly why Bill Gates shelled out over $30 million for the Codex Leicester, Leonardo da Vinci's personal journal, just filled with his private sketches and theories.
All right, so we get what makes this stuff so valuable. But who is actually buying it these days? And how is the market itself changing? Let's take a look.
If you look at fine wine as an investment, it tells a really classic story. In the short term, things can be pretty volatile. After a massive boom during the pandemic, the market took a pretty big hit. But when you zoom out, the long-term trend is one of steady, powerful growth. It's a great reminder that collecting is a marathon, not a sprint.
But maybe the biggest shift of all is in the buyers themselves. That old stereotype of the 65-year-old businessman, it's kind of fading away. Today, the average winning bidder at auction is closer to 40, and it's being driven by a whole new generation of wealth from tech and venture capital. And that new money is completely reshaping the market.
And whenever the economy gets a little turbulent, this new market does something fascinating. It triggers what's called a flight to quality.
Basically, when investors get nervous, they run to proven, blue-chip assets. In the collectibles world, that means they double down on the absolute rarest, most iconic items, which just pushes the prices at the very top of the market even higher.
So after seeing the staggering prices, the incredible histories, and this changing market, you're left with one fundamental question. What are these items really? How should we even think about them?
When you look at the absolute top tier, whether it's a sacred text like the Codex Sassoon, a legendary vintage of wine, or the very first collection of Shakespeare's plays, they all share the same powerful blend: extreme scarcity, an incredible history, and just profound cultural importance.
So it leaves us with this final kind of provocative thought. Are these things just financial instruments? Alternative assets to be traded back and forth for profit? Or are they irreplaceable pieces of our collective human story, cultural artifacts that we actually have a duty to preserve above everything else?